Happy Pride, everybody. So, what is Pride? Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Pride is. So, in the 50s and 60s, and even into the late 60s, in New York City, there were clubs. There were gay clubs. But they were raided by the police on a regular basis. And they're generally in Lower Manhattan. So there was this club, this bar known as the Stonewall Inn, which, by the way, is not the exact location of where the current Stonewall Inn in New York City is, but it is down the street from it. And there were people who were gathered of the LGBT community. This was the last Sunday of June of 1969. And they were having a merry old time. And there was a police raid. And a transgender lady, Marsha Johnson, got in the way of the police taking and dragging people out of the inn. And people were being put into the paddy wagon. Well, there was no conflict. There was no fighting. Nobody died. But people in that area, people from the bars in that area, people who lived in that area, came onto the streets and began protesting. And that was what started the Pride parades that happen in the month of June, every month, for the last 50-odd years. So, more than 50 years, 60 years or so. So, we are at a point in history today that we are not so much ostracized as we were back then. But what we started out as, to saying, no, we have the right to exist, we have the right to protest, we have the right to express ourselves, and we are going to take the month of June to remind the world that we are part of every family, we are part of the community, and we are active and productive members of society who do not break laws, who have contributed immensely to all fields. And we see an assault now on that population. Among us, mostly the transgender people in our federal government. Our federal government, with Donald Trump's transgender ban and Hegset's transgender bans, the federal government is discriminating against transgender people on the basis of sex, in violation of the equal rights component of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. So, we as a community must stand up for our transgender sisters and brothers who are being targeted by the executive branch of our government, thereby violating the equal rights protections that we have on the basis of sex. And I believe these cases will go up to the Supreme Court. But this month, we have to raise our voices for our transgender sisters and brothers. We have to make sure that we use this month of protest, this month of shedding our shame and trampling over it with our expression of saying we exist and we are proud to exist. This is not about a vainglorious pride, although, it's good to look at pride and associate with vanity. It is a colorful and amazing event. It is creative and flamboyant and sensual, and it is an incredible opportunity to see the diversity that we have in our communities. And it has happened every year, and it'll happen this year as well. No matter how much people try to oppress. And even in states like Idaho, in a city like Boise, they protect the rights of LGBT citizens there. And there are people there like Pamela Hemphill, who used to be a MAGA person until she realized what she did wrong on January 6th and learned from her mistake. And I honor her for that. And she is somebody in Boise, Idaho, who goes out there and is an ally now of humanity, of love over hate. And that's exactly what Pride is about. Pride is a protest. It is claiming our existence. And it is speaking truth to power and empowering people in our communities who may feel that they are alone in this fight. No, you are not alone. Transgender people are not alone. In the same regard, Andrew Romero, who was illegally removed by Donald Trump's regime and sent to a gulag in El Salvador, a gay makeup artist with no criminal history, who sought asylum in the United States because he was fleeing his country, Venezuela, for persecution, because he was both against the government and also his sexual orientation, was illegally shipped off to the Gulag Sikhat in El Salvador. And we have to raise our voices. Our community has to raise its voice in unity to bring Andrew Romero home, including another person that we know is a gay person. I believe they only use the acronym OCG at this time. And they were raped when they were detained before. And they were again illegally removed and sent to El Salvador. They have a history of being traumatized, and our government is re-traumatizing them. And now, what is Donald Trump's regime trying to do? Pete Hegseth wants to remove from a Navy ship, U.S. Navy ship, Harvey Milk, the name of Harvey Milk, who was a veteran, who was a council member, who was openly gay, who did more for our community than he was a trailblazer. He was the first to be proud enough and loud enough to make a mark in American politics. And he was a service member. And taking his name off the ship is not going to change Harvey Milk's legacy. In fact, every month, every year, for a month at least, we are going to remember Harvey Milk. This is another thing that this current regime is doing. It is not only cutting federal aid from USAID for the HIV/AIDS program that provides prevention, treatment, awareness for HIV and funds those programs in poor countries around the world. But the government, the Department of Health and Human Services, led by Bobby Kennedy Jr., is also taking money away, taking away grants from states that programs that prevent infectious diseases. And that includes HIV. That includes HIV funding for prevention, for awareness, and for treatment. And therefore, it is an attack on our community because the LGBTQ plus community is disproportionately affected by the HIV virus and the pandemic that is all over the world. And whether it is not just LGBT people, but because of the stigma created in the 1980s that it was a gay cancer, that stigma still lingers. But you know what, the Pride community, you know what we did? We empower people, even people who have the condition, who have HIV. That is a part of our community. We protect people who are in this way disabled. And for the government to take away from the least rich or the poorest among us who would get this aid from our public departments of health, Donald Trump's regime is taking resources away from states. So call your state senators and representatives and push that money not be taken away from your health departments. You know, blue states disproportionately give money to the federal government than what they get back, and red states get more money from the federal government than they give in federal taxes. So the red states rely a whole lot more on federal money that is being stopped. And so outbreaks of infectious diseases, including HIV, other sexually transmitted diseases, and other infectious diseases like measles that we're seeing now, like mumps, like rubella, like HIV, like any other infectious disease you may come to think of. Their pandemic of COVID, that's infectious disease program. That's money going into that. And they're stopping that as well. But I will limit this to the impact on the LGBT community. Of course, every single cut targets our community because there are people in our community who are in need. And we have to raise our voices for them. This is not just the month to do it. We have to do it every single day. But this is a month for us to remember. It is a month for us to remember people like Marsha Johnson and Harvey Milk. It is time for us to raise voices on behalf of people of the transgender community and of people who are asylum seekers and refugees coming to the United States with the idea in mind that we look at people equally here. We give everybody the same liberty and dignity that any other human being deserves. With that said, again, remember, Pride, what is it? It is a protest. It is creative. It's immersive. Become a part of it and express yourself. Tell others what bothers you. Do not be ashamed of who you are. Be proud of who you are. Dance on the effigy of shame. And lift up the voices that are forced to remain quiet. Thank you so much for listening. Again, happy Pride, and I'll talk to you soon.